Now, animals play a tremendous role in regulating attachment and regulating feeling, as well as reminding us and connecting us to some of the older parts of our own brain. It seems to be the case in any cult or culture that the most cultured person is the person who has adapted farthest from the instinctual habits of their biology. And so you could, in many ways, say the process of becoming a cult member is the process of divorcing oneself from one's base instincts, with the supposition that the base instincts are inferior to the cult protocols. Now, this is not at all clear that this is the case, because in many cases, if you measure the amount of energy that a cult member spends eating, sleeping, going to the toilet, and having sex, so you could, and attending to survival. In most cases, an ape or a monkey does each of these things 100 times more efficiently and more abundantly than an average cult member. It's not that hard and complicated for an ape to have sex. When they feel like it, they do it. And there's release, relief, brain chemistry balance, move on. When they're hungry, they eat. Move on. When they're tired, they sleep. And they have good sleep and a good sex life and an organic diet that in many ways is healthier than the average cult member who's human. And they survive. And not only that, the apes are taking care of their ecology in such a way that their ecology will be at least as abundant for their children and children's children as it was for them. Now, you compare that to the average cult member, and they go months or years at a time without sex, go through an elaborate process of this and that and all of these rigmaroles, etc., before having sex, have all kinds of push-pull dynamics around eating, eat often unorganic and less healthy food, can go into debt and stress about eating, imbibe more toxic chemicals. Then the process of sleeping. Many of the most culted cult members cannot get to sleep, don't know how to do this, are anxious, etc. So the apes are in many ways doing it 10 times better. Now, what this means is that we have a lot to learn from animals. Dogs are superior to the average human being at assisting in traumatic recovery. So the cult generates trauma. Dogs heal trauma. The cult doesn't know how to heal the trauma it generates. And so it's very important to break the mythology, the very unscientific mythology that self-referentially claims. A self-referential claim just means that we invented the measuring system, we measured it, and by our measuring system measuring it, we come out on top. So every cult in human history has said that it is superior to animals and every other cult. But by what metrics? That's where things get a little bit shady. And so, having dogs on property is incredibly enriching relative to the status quo. So having one animal to every 4 or 5 people is very good. This provides a tremendous amount of variety and interest for visitors also. Where can you go to find untraumatized happy animals, playing, engaging, different people connecting with different in abundance, where there's a sense of community, care, and aliveness that comes from animals. So the protocols for this are, first of all, the entire land area is fenced. And the gating process is such that you do not have to worry about children leaving the community land without somebody knowing, and you don't have to worry about animals leaving the land without somebody knowing about it. So you simultaneously do not have deer, which are a big problem where I live, coming in and eating all the food. You don't have, as much of an issue with mountain lions and things like that. And you also have an awareness of a boundary, a clear boundary, so that supports the idea of having day passes, etc. So a single 7-foot deer fence that has 2 layers of gating, so a gate into the parking area and then a gate from the parking area out into the street, is a protocol that allows all of these things to happen. You can have chickens, you can have goats in areas, and you simply don't have to worry about children or animals wandering off. People are encouraged to adopt animals and bring that animal into a state of community bonding, etc. So this is excellent for children to learn the art of parenting by learning to parent a small animal. It's terrifically valuable for children. Animals that die are buried in the garden and become fertilizer for ornamental plants. So you have a great cycle of life and energy. And the app can recognize, you can scroll through as a visitor or as an owner or community member. You can scroll through the animals on property, who's responsible, and you can then send, if there's an issue with an animal, your dog is getting into the compost bin, etc. You can take a photo or video and send that, to the owner via the app. And allergy reduction can be encouraged by eliminating allergic foods, practicing hypnosis, and having some areas be free of animals within the community, including the dining and bathing areas for those that wish that. The community may wish to train and facilitate not only healing environments, but specific animals for healing to be shared with the community. This is also could be an export service. If a dog, for example, has been learned to express empathy and bond tightly with someone who's sick, you could bring that dog to someone in the larger culture around who's feeling lonely and depressed towards as they are moving towards death, with relatives that do not care that much about them. And by having a healing animal in the last month of someone's life, it's a tremendous gift to the outside culture and to a specific person who wants to die well. Research can also be done as a result of animals because it's incredibly important for people to know, for example, that when I developed PTSD as a result of an abuse cycle with therapy, having a dog increased my personal well-being 25%, but it increased my living expenses by less than 5%, making my dog one of the single most important investments I could make in well-being. But people who are dealing with trauma and change, etc., they can't go out and find a dog, care for a dog, provide for a dog, but they might be able to come and spend time. I learned that my dog would be helpful when I would visit a little hut in Thailand where a woman sold, just a few basic items, but her little Chihuahua was there, and the dog would always come sit on my heart, and I felt so happy just sitting there in a mud hut for the presence of one dog. And many people don't have access to that. It's a really valuable thing to introduce into a child, into a traumatized person's life, and into an entire psyche of community.